Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. Special welcome to our international visitors. I hope you manage with my Afrikaans accent. I'll speak slowly so that you can understand. One favor, please. If you have questions, please write it in the Q&A box, and after the webinar, if there are any, I'll try and answer as best as possible. If I don't have the answers immediately, I'll be able to find out from my colleagues at the university or wherever it's needed and get back to you via email and via Facebook. So tonight we're talking about ADHD and supplements, and does it work, does it not work, how can I help, what is there around that can help my ADHD child, and how does diet influence it, etc. So a little bit about myself. Unfortunately, I have to tell you a little bit about myself. I don't like to do that, but I think for the sake of understanding where I come from, I think it is important. Personally, I have attention issues. I can't remember anything. I grew up in a small place, a small town in the Northern Cape called Douglas. And I remember in high school, we had to make a choice of subjects in Standard 8. Back then it was Standard 8. I think now it's grade 10. We had to make a choice of subjects we wanted to take. And I think the three choices I had was woodwork, biology, and history. I chose history because that was the cricket coach that taught history, and I wanted to be in his class. But the thing is, I couldn't remember a thing. To this day, every now and again, I get a dream, and it's like as if 40 years playing back to me, and it's as if I'm getting it, as if I'm reliving it. And I remember writing my matric end exam and throwing the damn textbook against the wall because I couldn't remember the facts. I have real short-term memory issues. My attention tends to drift as well, except when I'm doing maths or really tough mathematical type of problems, trying to solve those. The rest of it, I'm all over the place. And then I have sensory issues. That means that I don't like when people touch me, except my family. I don't like to be close to people. That's me personally. My oldest son, Henry, is 20 now. He has sensory issues in terms of what he hears, loud sounds bothers him. He's on the autistic spectrum. And so he's got a challenge, more challenge than what I have. Certain textures, it bothers him, etc. Anyways, I managed somehow to get a doctor's degree in chemistry, and over the years, I've produced more than 150 peer-reviewed articles in scientific journals. In terms of the research we do, I do a lot of cancer research, and also in catalysis. And anything with metals. I love being around metals. They're interesting things, but that's not what tonight's about. I started food supplement research back in 95, 96, when my wife and I started a nutritional business, a business selling nutritional supplements all over Africa. And in a couple of years, we managed to develop a business with $1 million plus yearly turnover. Now, it's not those days the rand to the dollar was about 6 to 1, so it's not multiplied by 20. But I think back then it was quite a big business, and I'm very proud of the work we've done. But it took me all over Africa, and I saw many parts of Africa, but I didn't see many parts of my own family. And at some stage, we decided that it's not worth it. Henry, our oldest, was born in 2000, and we didn't, being young parents, we didn't understand that there are challenges. or that he had challenges. It took us a while, and at some stage, through many, and tonight's not the time to share this with you, but we finally understood that he is on the autistic spectrum. Now, he's a well-functioning autistic child. He's still a child because emotionally, I think he's around somewhere between 12 and 14, although his body is a 20-year-old man. Leon, our second son, was born 18, 17 or 19, somewhere there, months after Henry. He has ADHD and a couple of comorbidities. I can't call it stress because angst would describe it much better. But these things took Karen and I, my wife, to a different route. And we started to find, or try to find ways to help our kids. I looked into supplements. I looked into nutrition, like diet. I looked into everything that we can find. And eventually we started the company BioLink back in 2008. Tonight's talk is not about BioLink. And I'm also not going to try and sell you anything. You can really trust me on that. But our main goal is just to change the way that people think about ADHD. And the reason for it is because kids with ADHD are labeled as naughty, bad kids, etc. I don't have to tell you about that. If you have an ADHD child, you will know what I'm talking about. I'm talking to you, or those of you who don't have a child like that. And I want to tell you that these kids can't help it. And one day, if we can do a live meeting where I can really interact with an audience, once again, I would love to have you in the audience and explain to you how it feels to be an ADHD child. I've got a wonderful example, but I can't use it online. So we want to change the way people think about ADHD, and part of that is to share information that we want you to be able to trust. So what I'm going to share with you tonight is what I know, what I've researched, not in You Magazine, not on YouTube, not on Google, in scientific magazines. And I hope you can trust me on that. And I forgot to smile. They told me you must smile when you talk, because I'm very serious normally when I try to explain something. So please don't think that I'm not friendly. I am. And yes. Okay, so what we will be discussing today is just in general a perspective on what happens in a classroom. And then we'll talk about how humans evaluate children with ADHD. And I've got a few examples for you that you'll really love, I think. We'll talk about diet and its effect on ADHD. We'll talk a little bit about supplements, but our main focus will be on omega-3 tonight. We'll talk about medication because that's always an issue. And I'll share a couple of final thoughts with you that might help you or might not help you. And I want you to use a shopping bag approach tonight, because take what you want, believe what you want. I'll share the facts as I know it, the best way I can, and use what you can. And there I forgot to smile again. So let's go on. So it happens often that we speak to parents and teachers, that they say that they have this child in class that's fidgeting, cannot finish a task on time, daydreaming, impulsive, not paying attention, all these things that we know an ADHD child does. But then the parents come and say, but Yanni or John or Anne doesn't behave that way at home. How is it that it's like that in class? And I feel sorry for teachers, because when a teacher approaches you with something like this, I can imagine that it's one of the most difficult things to do, because parents don't want to get bad news. I remember back in the day when we got our first little bit of bad news when Henry was in grade R. That's actually when we realized that he's not like other kids. And yes, we were young and dumb, but it was a tough time. It's a tough time for a parent to hear that there's a disorder that needs attention. Fortunately, we took action, and if you have a child that has ADHD or is on the autism spectrum, take action. Don't think it's going to solve itself. So let's talk about how humans evaluate children with ADHD in this case, in this manner. And I've got two very important studies, or two, in my opinion, important studies. A couple of years ago, I read this study that came out of Germany, where they looked at how pediatricians, males and females, evaluate children with ADHD, especially boys. So the focus was on boys. And what they found was that the male pediatricians were much more, or diagnosed much more children with ADHD or boys with ADHD than the females. So think about this. The sexual orientation of the person doing the diagnosis makes a difference to the diagnosis. Strange. Let's go one step further. There's a famous study which I call the mother, son, and sugar study. It was done in the US, and what they did was they got a group of mothers and sons of the same age group, the sons, the boys, and what they told the mothers is that we're going to give, and all the children had ADHD. They were diagnosed with ADHD. They said, we're going to give half of the children sugar on a daily basis. The others will get a sugar replacement on a daily basis. The mother said, it's okay. The mothers knew whether their child was on the replacement or on the sugar. Okay, so that's important. What the people who ran the study didn't tell the parents was that all the children in the group got the sugar replacement. Okay, so nobody got sugar. After the period, I can't remember how long the study lasted. It was a couple of weeks. The mothers were asked to say how it affected, whether the sugar or the replacement affected their child's behavior. And the mothers who thought their children were getting sugar said their children's behavior worsened after, eating or drinking whatever it was that was given to them. There are two lessons there. Number one, and we know this from the science that's available at the moment, is that sugar doesn't really affect ADHD symptoms. All of us if we get too much sugar in, we will become a little bit jumpy, but that doesn't affect the behavior or the ADHD symptoms. The second thing is, the parents who know their child's best or their children best made a mistake in terms of evaluating how they behave. They just thought they would behave worse, and so they said it. So next time when a teacher approaches you and tells you that, look, maybe your child needs evaluation, don't use the word, my child is so well behaved at home. Maybe take up the advice and visit somebody who knows what they're talking about. Get some help for your child. It will improve his life or her life, and it will improve yours, because homework time will get better, and all the other stuff that you want really will improve. And I think this time of COVID, where a lot of parents have to homeschool children, or their children will see how their children really are when they are under stress, or when they have to finish a task, or when they have to do some work that's school related or boring. I mean, guys, let's face it. I'm an academic, but I mean, for most people, studying is boring. Most people don't like doing it. Okay, so Let's talk about diet and ADHD. Here, somewhere in the 70s, a guy called Feingold developed this diet. It was an extremely strict diet where a lot of food colorants and additives were you know, you weren't allowed to take it. It was so strict that people struggled to follow it, and it didn't show a lot of results. Feingold, of course, said it showed fantastic results, but how can you believe the guy developed something? That's a story for another day. The other thing that's important is a lot of children with ADHD have sensory issues as well. ADHD is not something that walks alone. There's sensory issues, there's memory issues, there's other comorbidities, as the scientists call it. You know, things that run along with it, like angst, like I said, sensory issues. So very often children with ADHD are picky eaters. My last born son, he's a laatlam. For our overseas visitors, that means directly translated late lamb. He was born 7 years ago, and the other two are 20 and 18, almost 19. And he can't eat. There's a lot of foods that once it gets in his mouth, and he really tries. He's a good boy. He tries putting it, but the moment it touches his inside of his mouth, he becomes nauseous. He can't get it in. From what I know from diet and ADHD is that it doesn't change behavior, it doesn't change ADHD. But, and I think it's a key issue, and my dietitian friends will love me for saying this, but a good diet is important for all of us. The better the diet, the better health and the better results you will get. To me, that's a given. Let's talk a little bit about supplements. Now, I'm going to give you a few facts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but if you want me to send you the studies afterwards, there's an email that you can write, and I'll gladly help you with it. But let me give you a few facts about omega-3. Let's start with that. I'll stick to the plan. I tend to, as you can see, I tend to switch things up. But I'll try and stick to the program tonight. So a couple of years ago, there was a big study in the US, and they involved more than 50,000 general practitioners, doctors, medical doctors. And what they did is they gave them each one serving of fresh fish per week for a period of 6 months. Over the period of 6 months, these doctors, these GPs, their total risk of contracting heart disease decreased with 52%. The reason? Omega-3. Omega is fantastic for heart health. It's fantastic for joint health, and especially aches and pains. And it plays an immense, tremendous role in brain health as well. Now, here's a couple of facts from science. Children with ADHD or autism, their brains don't synthesize these active ingredients in omega-3 as well as others. For that reason, they are deficient in omega-3. It's an important fact to remember. There's another fact that you need to know. If you are buying your supplements for your child, or your children, not just your ADHD child, but if you are buying supplements for them, don't look at the label and don't include omega-6 in it. The reason is that in the Western diet, we are getting too much omega-6 in. And the moment that is too much, it becomes, instead of being your friend, becomes your enemy. The Western diet, or the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 in the Western diet is calculated to be around 1 to 30. It has to be 1 to 3. You're getting too much omega-6. It's from plant oils, etc., that you get your omega-6. Science shows that the benefits of omega-3 in ADHD and autism is minimal. Small changes, if any, in behavior, and all the other factors as evaluated, for ADHD. But to me, and I don't think people understand always how big the nutritional industry is worldwide, the supplement industry is worldwide. And I'm trying to remember the facts. I actually read it last week, and now my memory is letting me down. But I can tell you this, is that it's running into the hundreds of billions of US dollars a year, the turnover in terms of the food supplement industry. And I'm not even including energy drinks, which is one of the fastest growing, nutritional markets in the world today. Yes, keep your children off energy drinks if you can. The point is, it's a huge market, and people will sell you anything in order to make a quick buck. People will sell you herbs and tell you that it will help your child with ADHD. On radio, I'm an avid listener of RSG. I want to say it, pronounce it in Afrikaans, RSG. It's an Afrikaans radio station. And there are regular programs where the specific company gets a professional in a different field and to talk about health in general. And then in the end, they slip in their own little product or how they can help you, or advertisement. It's just stupid how much money people are spending in advertising. But once you understand how big the turnover is, you understand that it's worth it to spend the money on the advertising. So here's the key, folks. There's no herb, no supplement, no diet that can improve, change, or in any way help your child get rid of ADHD. It's not going to happen. Get it? It's not going to happen. Science tells you it's not happening. There might be small changes, as I said, with omega-3, but it's minuscule. It's not something that you can go out and say, forget about anything else, just use omega-3, or use this new herb, or use this combination of herbs. Herbs are dangerous things, by the way, especially if you're using other medications. People don't understand this, but if you're using medication of one way, and you're using herbs in the other hand, the contraindications of when these molecules get together has never been tested. It could be so dangerous to do it. Don't use herbs, especially. Don't give your child anything with a herb in if they are using ADHD medication, like Ritalin or any one of the others. I'm not advertising. Okay. Another fact. None of us are getting enough omega-3. Not our ADHD children, not ourselves. So supplementing is important for the whole family. Or increase the amount of fish you eat. If you live in Bloemfontein, it's a little bit difficult to get nice fresh fish. But if you're living near the coast, it's another story. And now my screen don't want to go on. Okay, I'm going to quickly stop the share, move the slide on. Forgive me for this. I'll get back to you as possible, as soon as possible. Okay, let's say we do this, we do that. Sorry, no, escape. I need to share the screen again. I hope this works now. Share a new screen. That's where I want to be now. Okay. Let me get this. Oh, goodness. There we go. Let's see if it works. If it works now. Okay. So I want to explain a little bit more about why omega-3 is important in the brain. Now, it's taken up, and a lot of the fats, or your brain brain cells consist of a lot of fats, like omega-3, especially omega-3. And these molecules, if you look at them, these are the active ingredients in omega-3s. Now, this one here is in the plant-based oils. It's called alpha-linolenic acid. It's not important, ALA. But I want you to look at the shape of the molecule. You see, these are long chains of atoms that are linked together, but it's bent. It's not in a straight line. These are the EPA and DHA that you find in fish oils. Can you see how they are like almost running like waves? And that's an important fact, because I want you to turn your attention to these two poorly done sketches that I made. If these molecules were straight lines, and this is just a small example, like here. Remember, if these molecules are on the cell membrane on the membrane of the cell, in other words, the outer side of the cell. So if they were to be straight lines, straight molecules, not bent, then it would be difficult for any nutrient to enter the cell through the membrane. But if they look like this, my crude drawing here, there's space there for nutrients to get in and waste material to get out. You're looking at healthy cells. Now here's an important fact. That's why they were made like this. This is the first fact. The second fact that's important is the fats that you absorb when you eat takeaways or anything like that look like this. They also go to the brain. They also sit there. Reduce the amount of takeaways that you're taking in on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis. We're talking of the word that we talk about is cell permeability. It means nutrients can enter the cell, waste material can get out. If you have enough omega-3 in your diet, your cell outline, the membrane would look like this, and you will have healthy cells. Just a quick tip: if you have omega-3, you can store it in the fridge. It's better that way. Any oil gets rancid if it's in the outside. Omega-3 much more so. And the only reason is it starts to smell, and if you drink it, you will have these little burps. Terrible to say it, but you'll have this little burp and it'll smell fishy. It's bad. If it's stored in the fridge, you don't have that problem. So what's the story with ADHD and medication? The fact is that many parents fear medication, and with good reason. There are side effects. Any drug that you take, whether it's a Disprin or a Panada, will have side effects. Some people will be more affected by side effects than others. Some of us have Mercedes-Benz bodies, I don't. Or you will have a Volkswagen, a 1960 Volkswagen body, like me. It depends on who you are. So there are side effects. But there's also a lot of false information on the internet. And one of the biggest ones is that all people on ADHD medication become zombie-like. Look, if you are overdosed on it, you will behave like a zombie, and there's no doubt about it. But those are some of the stuff that goes on the internet, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. But there's another fact that most people don't know, is that ADHD medication doesn't work for about 30% of people, children included. In terms of children, the main reason, or one of the main reasons, are that their parents, who most likely also have ADHD, because it's a genetic disorder. They don't get it from the air or from food or from anywhere else. It comes from the combination when two people get together and make a child. And sometimes their parents are knit one, slip one. They don't give it in time, or they forget to give it, the medication, and then it doesn't work as well as it should. Or in some cases, it just does not work for this specific child. My middle child is like that. But there's another fact that we need to understand, is that these medications, whilst it is a medication and whilst it does have side effects, do provide a lot of support for many people, adults and children included. Just to get through school be able to keep a job, be effective in the job, and do something well. But there are alternatives to help with things like behavioral control and executive functioning. And I think I'm not going to market BioLink, but that's what we try to do. And I want to explain it. And this is I think my second last slide, or my last slide maybe. I want to explain it in terms of these two trees. On the right-hand side, you have a wonderful growing tree. It's green, it's comfortable, it's looking good. And on the left-hand side, you have a tree that's a little bit dull. It's not working or functioning as well as it should. And I want to start, oh goodness, sorry, I want to go back. Escape, back. I want to get to that slide. Sorry. When you look at this tree, and we start at the roots, and this is where cognitive skills are developed. Things like attention, memory, perception, processing speed, how fast we process information, logic and reasoning. If these roots of the tree are well developed, then you have a tree that can do all these things. It can plan and prioritize, it can do tasking, it can start tasks on its own. You have people who can remember, can think, can read well. Problem solving isn't a problem. That's a stupid word. They can sit still while they are doing their task. But if these cognitive skills aren't developed well, then the executive functions aren't developed. And there's something that my last message to you is that we must understand that the brain is neuroplastic. It's a simple term. It sounds like a difficult term, but it's actually very simple. It means it can learn new skills. And I'll explain it in two ways to you. The first way is that when you were young, you didn't know how to use a knife and fork. Somewhere along the line, you learned how to cut meat with a knife and eat. When you sit down at your dinner table tonight, or when you sat down, if you've already eaten, you didn't think about how am I going to cut this meat? You do it naturally. The reason is those neuronal pathways have been built. Your body knows how to do it. You've taught it. I want to share another example. I have a friend who's also a professor in chemistry, and a couple of years ago he had a huge brain damage, and during his recuperation he had to learn how to walk again, how to talk again, all these things. Today he can do it again. The reason is the brain is neuroplastic. It can build new neuronal pathways. How much of it you can do depends from child to child, from person to person. But all of us can learn new skills. Skills like cognitive skills like these can be taught. It can improve the way that you behave in class. We can teach children to sit still while they're performing a task. And the level of it depends, of course, from child to child. You cannot cure ADHD, but you can make it a hell of a lot better if you've got the right tools. And I think we've got that. No, not think. I know we've got that. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to see if there are any. Oh, there are questions. There's one question. So Chrisma asks me, what's my opinion on release SCE Forte for ADHD? Chrisma, I will have to look up what is in release. I don't have a label in front of me. If it's a food supplement that you're buying over the counter, I can tell you now what I think about it. It won't help. If it's something that's prescribed by a doctor for ADHD, then it might. You've got a 60–70% chance of it helping, if it's the right dosage. Oh, let me just say this. There are limitations to ADHD and medication, and many medical professionals won't like me saying this. But listen to me. You take your child to a practitioner. They evaluate the child, they decide that he or she has ADHD. They start giving this person medication. They don't know how much. What they tell you is, I've gone through this. Come back in 6 months and tell us how he or she is behaving. And then they increase the dosage or they decrease the dosage. They've got no idea on how much to give. They weigh the child, they've got more or less an idea, but it's not a specific science. It really is not. Yeah, so Chrisma, release SCA Forte. I would like to see how it is marketed. If you drop us an email, please do that. Our email is below here. And I will promise you I will get back to you and I'll put it on our Facebook group or our Facebook page, the answers or what I think. And all of you can share in that. That's the only question I have tonight. Have I done such a good job? Anyways, thank you for attending. I hope you've had time to get our details there. You are so welcome to drop me an email. And I am open to